welcome to my freaking review of Hannibal. Just a heads up, I kind of have to speak not much louder than this because everybody's sleeping in my house again. Stupidly, I hate that this show comes on so late. I mean, because I stay up for like at least 5 hours afterwards, but everybody else around me is hit the hay. So I'm going to do my best to be able to speak as passionately as possible, but, you know, trying to maintain the volume levels and, you know, coupling that with my excitement and zeal and feelings about the show. It's a delicate balancing act, but I do what I can. So for those of you who have never seen my reviews before, I also do Dexter. I've done Bates Motel. The first season just ended, but you can catch up on all my other reviews as we wait for the second season. And The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad is coming this summer, all those shenanigans. So let us talk some freaking Hannibal, and I have a special visual presentation for you all tonight, so be very excited. My brother and I have been watching the show together, and he is a bit of an artiste drawing type, and so he started drawing the family tree of Hannibal, or just basically this flow chart of all the relationships in the show so far, okay? So you guys need to see this ridiculousness. And also, I'm going to warn you that in this review there shall be spoilers about what happened in the latest episode that is currently shattering my soul. But okay, so I'm going to try and show you this paper. Alright, so here it is right here. I don't know how well you can see it. Let's get a little closer. Can you see it? Can you see it? Yes, no, maybe so? Well, I hope that I'll be able to walk you through this really quick. So, okay, first of all, let's look at Hannibal. I think my finger is pointing towards him-ish. So we see that Hannibal and Will Graham are BFFs with hearts and stars and all the works, you know. They're having a fun time together. But Will to Hannibal is basically what? And then they're both the dads of Abigail, who is murder buddies with Hannibal. And then there's the real dad who haunts Will. I don't know if you can see this all. The real dad haunts Will. And then Will thinks that he's this guy sometimes, and then he shares a name with Hobbs from Calvin and Hobbes. And then Will smooch buddies with the doctor woman whose name I can never remember for the life of me. And then she's booze buddies with Hannibal. You know, he makes her fine wine and they flirt and all that stuff. And he's kind of in the friend zone until he can anti-crazy himself a little bit. And then there's just all kinds of other exciting relationships here that I just wanted to share with you because I thought it was kind of magical and that you guys would enjoy this walk through the wonderful world of Hannibal. And also, he made a list of the things that are currently haunting Will. Number 1, who's my what's at Hobbs, the father of Abigail. Number 2, dying animals. Number 3, live animals. Number 4, dead people. Number 5, living people. Number 6, inanimate objects. Number 7, himself. And number 8, surprisingly not Hannibal. Okay? So that's just a little taste of this exciting show. And now I'm going to dive into my in-depth review of what we watched in this harrowing episode. Seriously, my mouth was agape most of the time. I was just, especially in like the last 20 minutes as things are just really getting gritty. And you know, for those of you who missed the, I believe it was the 4th episode of Hannibal that was taken down in the US due to the extremely violent nature of the murder investigation that was happening in that episode, and just some controversial things involving child deaths, things of that nature. And it was right around the Boston Marathon tragedy, and so it all was a hot mess. And I think that the full episode is online now, and I've only seen the parts of it that specifically involve Hannibal and Abigail. And so for those of you who missed that, you know, her return was probably slightly confusing, but you know, there is some continuity to it. It's just that, you know, the episode getting taken down, you know, some people haven't seen as much of the story. Some people are really upset that it felt like it just kind of got abandoned, but the fact of the matter is just there's a lot of politics and just controversy about what was in that episode specifically. So Abigail is just a problematic little soul, and I mean, like, last week's episode feels like a freaking cakewalk compared to everything that we watched this week, because just the way that Will and Hannibal have connected, and Hannibal defined it, you know, it's like, we're her fathers now. We were all thinking it. We were all processing that little love triangle of sorts, and, you know, Hannibal decided to just go forth and define that relationship for all of us, so now we're all on the same page there. Got a couple of daddy-os and a little bromance and a little murder mistress, and nobody's quite sane. I mean, when you think about it, like, the most sane person in this show is Hannibal, okay? I mean, define sane, but he's the only one who's at least relatively comfortable mentally. I mean, say what you will about what he does, but he seems pretty comfortable in his own shoes, and we really see this week that manipulative side of him that is willing to do whatever it takes to keep himself from getting in the crosshairs of the FBI and all that madness, you know. He wants to keep up with his diet, and I can only assume that that would not be an option in prison, so, you know, he's got quite a few reasons to stay not behind bars. At any rate, yeah, so Abigail, she really ties in Will and Hannibal together, and they've kind of been, you know, swimming parallel to one another for quite some time, and they really converge over this broken girl towards whom they feel extremely paternal. And then, you know, she is of such crazy interest to everyone in the show, to the freaking red-headed she-devil demon woman from hell. I have a lot of not friendly feelings towards her. I just kind of want Hannibal to kill her. I have pretty much since I first saw her. I knew she was trouble when she walked in. I'm just saying, I ain't no T Swift, but you know, I was picking up on the, you know, there's something just not okay about this woman. She is a psychopath. But yeah, so, you know, she wants to tell the story. Tell your story with my words. You know, that's what I'm hearing in my head when, you know, she's kind of trying to come at Abigail, and she's trying to give her some sense of release and of, you know, helping her find her place in society, because her silence is, you know, is being registered by the public as guilt, and, you know, they're, well, and as we find out, that guilt is very well placed. I was asking my brother during the commercial break, I was like, okay, so has it already been established that she was involved in the murders, you know? Because we saw when we first met her, and she was kind of having these visions about, you know, she's running her hands through the fur of the deer, and then all of a sudden she is grasping this girl's hair and pulling a head back, and it's like, and so we can't really, you know, we couldn't really tell if she was just imagining what it would have been like for her father to do that, just being haunted by his experience, or if she was related to it at all. And now we see that she was implicated, and she does confess that to Hannibal at the last minute. She was freaking me out this episode. She, like, they really cast Abigail very well in this show. Like, she is disturbing. She has the perfect, you know, she's got that perfect horror vibe, and just the way her eyes look and her little side smiles, and she just has like this frenzied expression that just, ugh, it just wriggles me out of my skin in a not good way. I don't really know if there's a good way to be wriggled out of your skin. I don't know if you can be wriggled. I know you can wriggle, but I don't know. That's the only way I know how to describe it. This show gives me all sorts of heebie-jeebies, especially this girl. Especially when, you know, she's looking over the body of, what's-his-face, who she essentially gutted earlier on in the season, and she was just, all the weird faces. And that was like, that pretty much indicated to me right then and there, it confirmed to me that she had been involved in the murders of all those girls by her father. And she was kind of the bait, and yet sort of emerged as a co-conspirator, and there's all this manipulation, and it's like, I feel so badly for her, and yet I'm slightly terrified. And I don't know how she's going to flourish in the arms of Hannibal. You know, I don't know. We had some crazy interesting scenes with him in this episode. He is so incredibly forward with Will and with her, and yet he remains in control constantly. Like when Will comes and he has the crazy dream where pretty much everyone is killing everyone at once and it's just a hot mess. He shows up at Hannibal's and he's like, I know she did it. I know. I felt it in my head and that was what happened. And then Hannibal's like, yeah, you done guessed it. And then Will's like, yo, wait, why ain't you surprised? And he's like, because, bitch, I'm the bomb. And it just goes from there. And we know that Will is going to acquiesce to Hannibal's. He's so manipulative, he is so smooth and cunning and just artful in his delivery of that entire situation. He wasn't gonna beat around the bush, and this is an opportunity for him to hone in on Will further and get even closer than they already have been, and he knows that, and he's preying on that part of Will that is so paternal. And yet it's also pretty crazy because earlier in the episode we had this scary moment with Hannibal where he is threatening Abigail straight up. He's like, if I can't trust you, what does that mean? And that's, aside from Tobias and that whole situation, that's like the most forward that we've seen Hannibal be in his threatening nature, his ability to bend the world to his will. It was just ice cold. I was chilled by that whole situation. But and so I'm just waiting for Tumblr to absolutely go into hysterics over the fact that Hannibal puts his arm on Will's shoulder. It's like, the physical contact, the bromance has been consummated. It's like, I was dying at that point. The camera just zooms in on it, and so it shows, like, is there really this affection between them, or is he like staking his claim in bringing Will into this world? It's like, now you're here with me. It was just so sinister and creepy and warm and cold all at once, icy hot, and it's just so well done. I just love the cinematography, the colors, the shadows in this episode as Will and Hannibal are both looking out the window in his house, and the way that the blinds and the light are, making these crazy like crisscross lines across them and just showing like the chaos and the brokenness of this, and yet here they are, two dads and one killer daughter. What you gonna do? My mind is erupting. And and we see Will being very sardonic at the end, and just, I feel so much for him, and it's so crazy how much they're really pushing his sanity here. And I could totally see the bromance reaching an enormous breaking point by next season, which is what I've heard that Brian Fuller is kind of moving things towards, is, setting up this sort of twisted, not sexual romance, but there's all these weird feelings and tension, and it's just all, and everyone's bonded together in this messed up tragedy, and we're all just... It's just barrels and monkeys. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know. And Jack was really kind of pissing me off this episode. I mean, he's so right. about Abigail, but it's like at the same time just like, it's just amazing that he really doesn't perceive what's going on with Will. You know, he's willing to buy Will's act. That's a lot of Wills. And it's like, I think he sees through it, and yet it's almost like he wants to push Will as far as possible. It's like both he and Hannibal are doing that in their own ways, you know. They're both kind of wrenching him to different extremes at just the opposite ends of the spectrum. And I've always felt, you know, for those of you who are Dexter fans, that Hannibal kind of wants to make himself into like Will's dark passenger. You know, that's kind of how that situation has always stricken me. But yeah, so this was just such a crazy interesting episode. There is so much I can freaking say about it. Yeah, so if you have any certain thoughts, anything that really struck you in this episode, do let me know in the comments. I am more than happy to respond as soon as I possibly can. And I love Mads Mikkelsen, okay? Let me be real. But I have kind of a crappy sound system with my TV, and like, I have a great room, and so we have the TV over the fireplace, and then behind the great room it all opens up into a dining room, a kitchen. It's all big open space. And so there's absolutely no wall for the sound to bounce off of, and we don't have surround sound. And so, and the way that he talks, it is so hard for me to understand him. And just the sound echoes, and so I try to keep the volume low, but then it's like, especially if like the dishwasher is being run at night, it's like the sound disappears into the abyss of my house, and I'm trying to understand what he says, but half the things I can't even pick up. And so I'm gonna watch this episode again later this weekend, hopefully, and just watch it on my computer so I can reprocess those things, because Hannibal always has such unnervingly brilliant things to say, and he is just so in control of his world and his language, and everything is this sick and beautiful, pristine art for him. And I feel so bad that the acoustics of my house are trying to just get that out of my grasp. So if there's anything particularly striking that he said and I'm not addressing it because I couldn't hear, just let me know. I'm more than happy to discuss it in the comments with you guys. So yeah, I really, you know, I haven't been fully convinced that Hannibal is, you know, a cut and dry psychopath, and yet we see just his penchant for manipulation, his ability to control and to bend the minds of others to his will. Every time I say will now, it's a pun. This show is just like, if this show is a car, the fuel upon which it runs is a series of puns and one-liners and terrible food jokes. And I would say it's pretty efficient. It gets pretty good gas mileage. It's a nice ride, you know? The view is the windows, you can see the world through them, even if it's pretty messed up. You know, there's adjustable seats. You can look at things however you want to. I don't know how much further I can go with that metaphor, but yeah, so I was just stunned, you know, at how difficult it was to read him and Hannibal in this episode, and how that's kind of the whole point, is that we can't tell if his connections to Abigail, to Will, if they come from a genuine place, or if he's kind of, you know, this is his design, so to speak. My only complaint really so far is that a lot of the cases in this show, it's just each is a single episode. And I'd really like to see some ones that are big enough and really intriguing and meaty enough to like have a multi-episode arc. That's just what I'm kind of feeling. You know, I sort of like those like big bad scenarios, but Hannibal sort of is the big bad, and Will is sort of the little bad, and he's trying to be good, it's kind of hard when your BFF bromantastic partner in crime is, well, a criminal, and your daughter, who's a killer and whose father's a killer, and you empathize with the father, and it's a hard knock to life for this guy. I have to say, it is just, whew, nobody is fully got all their marbles. Somewhere, you know, just rolling down the street is everyone's collective loss of marbles and just going out to sea. I have to say though, I am consistently impressed with just the artistic design of the show, and the whole scene at the beach with the the giant human totem pole, and just I love the filters and just the color, and it's so ethereal and electric, and I love the visual quality of this show. It has stunned me from pretty much the beginning, and just all the dreams colliding with reality, and just like what is going on with Will. And the preview for next week, that is as ambiguous as all get out. Like, you can pretty much tell nothing from the previews for these shows, because it's like you don't know what's happening in Will's head and what's not. It's like we as the viewers are kind of, you know, we're sort of in his shoes trying to figure out just what is going on. And that's just about everything I have to say about it, is a big ol' what. It's quite amazing. I love this show to death. Somebody had better freaking pick it up for a second season. That's all I gotta say. I don't care if it's NBC. I don't care if it's your mom. Somebody's got to take this and continue to give it life, because from what I know, Brian Fuller has so many different seasons and ideas plotted out, and there's just so many directions, especially in light of all the literature that is behind this. And I think that Mads is a bad bee. He knows what's up. He rocks it as Hannibal. I mean, he is as perfect for this role as Michael C. Hall is for Dexter, as, you know, I could go on. So yeah, anything that I missed and kind of glossed over, just let me know. Everything is crazy. Kill the redhead. Abigail, WTF. I mean, like I said, I want to feel for her, but it's just like, I have had so many bad girlfriends in my life. Not like girlfriends dating, but like friends that are girls. And it's like, what if I had ever had a friend like Abigail? I'd be dead, and my ghost would be doing vlogs. And I don't know how that would work. Maybe I could cut a deal with the devil, or with God, whichever way. But whoever would be willing to sponsor my videos. Yeah, it's just so sick and so fascinating all at once, and that's just this show for you. Also, that was hilarious how Freddie Lowndes, is that the name of the? That's the redheaded woman, and she's like how she's a vegetarian. I'm almost positive that Hannibal just slipped in a little. You know, he just cut up some little meat slices and pretended it was some like exotic vegetable just to troll her. She deserves to be trolled above anyone. It was really interesting because did you guys notice how Abigail, like, she took a bite of the meat, right? And like the blood's coming out, like it's kind of, you know, ever so slightly undercooked, whatever, and she makes this face at Hannibal. Like, you know, it was almost like she recognized like the taste, because her father had fed her family human meat, you know, being that he did what he did and she was a part of that. And so it's like, does she know what he does exactly? I mean, they share so many secrets, but has she pieced everything together on her end? What implications is that gonna have? You know, and at what point is is Will going to figure out the whole picture about Hannibal, because he's already kind of bonded to him in this whole Abigail tie. So if something happens to Abigail, is that potentially going to dissolve things with Will and Hannibal? I mean, how strong is the bad romance with these two, okay? Also, there's a couple of hilarious fan videos, edits of Hannibal that you guys should check out, link in the description. I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier now that I'm like 20 cajillion minutes / light years into this vlog, but you should watch those because I die every time. I seriously watch them like every day. It's amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'll be back next week with some more Hannibal-ness. Thank you so much for listening to my mad ravings and just letting me go on about this craziness. You guys are the best. So I hope next to be back with some original music. It's been a long time, but I think it's about time that I strike up the vocal cords in a way that is not talking and tickle the ivories and make something new for you. So thank you, and I'll be back before you know it.